So I would have clients, and something that I have heard consistently since I started reading professionally, so maybe 7 or 8 years, is that they were interested in it, but they didn't really know where to go and find a place to like start and to learn. And it's a little bit different now because there are so many options online.
Sure.
Um, but there was that, and that everybody who got a reading was more or less confused and lost and searching for something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kind of disconnect. I don't know. A lot of them, a lot of people still practice religion, they still go to church, they go to temple, all of that. And this wasn't something to replace that part of it. They
Right.
just felt like there was something more.
Yeah.
And I just kind of leaned into that. Like, okay, if we're all feeling lost, there has to be something more. And how do you find your way to that? And so many of those clients and my friends and even my family were missing the connection with their intuition. Like,
Yes.
so they felt that pull, but they didn't really know where it was even coming from. And that's when you need to ground and center and tune in and
Yeah.
start back at the basics with your intuition and to build that forward. When you step into what you love and you have found your purpose
Yes.
and you have found what brings meaning to your life,
Exactly.
that's when the alignment clicks. And once everything
Yes.
clicks into
That's
alignment,
it.
that's when
That's
you
it.
start manifesting all the other wonderful things in your life. But if you're
100%.
forcing yourself to do something that you dread or you don't like or like just brings you down over and over and over again, you're never, I believe that you are never going to manifest the life of your dreams when you're not aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah. So, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Through the Magical Door. I'm your hostess, Samaya Adeline, your psychic alignment coach, and I have the pleasure of having with me the lovely company of a really lovely lady called Kelly Stegmann. Kelly, so lovely to have you. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited to introduce you all to Kelly. She's a very special lady, and she's also the creator and founder of Nebula, which is your very own magically charged spiritual membership, helping you transform and turn your life and work into a luxury ritual. As your spiritual big sister, Kelly assists women become empowered through deepening the relationship to their own true authentic self and life purpose. And she believes that with the right tools, resources, and guidance, you can manifest your dream life. Because when you make the mundane magical, you begin your unique journey. And she's here to help you do just that. So, Kelly, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have this chat with you. And just to say, we met through, I want to give a bit of a shout out to Marisa Lowen, because it's where we met through her
Yes.
incredible conference, online conference she held. Marisa Lowen is a really amazing business strategist that we kind of connected us together. So I want to give a bit of a shout out because that's how this kind of came about.
Exactly.
And obviously we're working together at the moment, but I would love to know, Kelly, from you first, if we were to start with, maybe could you share something with us that would explain to us a little bit more about how you ended up doing what you're doing right now through the spiritual membership, through serving women in the work that you do. We'd love to know a little bit more. What led you into this?
Okay. I am not one of those people who had a grand awakening where
Mm-hmm.
something happened in my life, a car accident, a near-death experience,
Yeah,
something
right.
traumatic like that, that woke me up and made me say, like, okay, I'm spiritual now. It did not happen for me like that. For me, it's been a gradual over my entire lifetime process. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be magic. I loved the superheroes. The X-Men were big when I was little. I always wanted some kind of magical powers, to be invisible, to control the weather, talk to animals, anything like that. Sabrina the Teenage Witch was my hero. Um, but it wasn't. I was just me, plain ordinary me, you know, going to school and after school, going to work, all that kind of stuff. But over the course of my life, I came to look back and realize that I had always done some kind of ritual, some kind of
Mm.
superstitious type thing. And it was almost like it was ingrained in me and a part of me. And then once I acknowledged, like, okay, not everybody does this. You know, not everybody sets intentions when they fold laundry, and not everybody, you know, stirs an affirmation into their coffee. Once I realized like everybody doesn't do that, I stepped back and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I have been magical this whole time and didn't realize it. And that's when I kind of, you know, that was probably maybe 10, 15 years ago when I really stepped fully into it and
Mhm.
realized, well, if I'm doing this, it's easy for other people to do this too.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
that's just how I feel about all of it. Everybody has magic inside, and everybody just needs to realize that. And once they do, they can fully step into the kind of life that they want to live.
I love that you're sharing this, Kelly, for different reasons. One of the things that I really love about what you just shared, as you were growing up and having the influence from all these characters and the superheroes, and I was a big fan of Sabrina the Witch as well. What I loved also about what you just said was that in a way, there was always this sense that there was more than what we were experiencing, because you said you were not finding it around you, but actually
Yeah.
in a way how we've all kind of come into this sleepy state where that hasn't been part of the way we've grown up, right? So
Yeah.
it hasn't been made accessible to us, and it's almost like with you there was this remembrance that actually that is accessible, and you had it already kind of ingrained, but you hadn't sort of like necessarily wasn't taught to you. And I really love that, because it also highlights how like we are not born into it necessarily. We have to sort of like remember it almost, because it wasn't part of the way it was like done, right? In our
Yeah.
families or communities or whatever. So I really love that. And 10, 15 years ago, that's quite a while. So tell me, I'd love to know a little bit about that process, when it started becoming very conscious to you that actually not only it's something you want for the fun of it, but it's something that we kind of need. It's something that it's really enhancing our lives. It's really giving value. I'd love to know more about when that started like kicking in for you.
I think that really started kicking in. And now that I'm saying it, it was longer than 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
After I had my first child, my daughter, just because I was home, I decided to stay home with her. We were able to do that, and I was very blessed to be able to do that. I stayed home with her the first couple of years, and that's a lot of alone time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You think it's going to be all mommy groups and, you know, like playtime and doing this and doing that, and it is not. It is sitting home in your house, washing bottles, folding those onesies that never seem to end. They're like an endless pile of those, changing diapers, and there's still all the housework, and meanwhile yourself is falling apart. And not everybody has it to like an extreme like what you see on television, but in general, even though you're surrounded by people who love you and love the baby, you're still there's
Yeah,
just
alone.
isolation that happens.
Very alone.
And that can be a whole podcast episode in itself.
Oh,
But I
completely.
think that's when I kind of turned to like, okay, well, if it's just me, then what do I do? And that's when I really started that. And I think, as all moms do, the fear of something, God forbid, happening to your baby.
Yeah.
That's when, like, I started to do like what started, I think, is superstitions. Like, oh, well, if you fold clothes to the left or to the right, then that brings good luck. So I think it kind of like started with that. And I just kind of stepped into it a little bit more, and
Hmm.
then I did not want to go back to work, but I did go back to work. And I kind of brought some of that with me into the workplace as well. Like, okay, well, if I have to be here, how can I make this time enjoyable?
And do I remember, well, you're actually in the process of writing a book, or you've written a book that you're publishing around that? Can you tell us a bit about it? Because I think it's an interesting one to
My
bring
my
in.
book is almost finished. The tentative title is The Cubicle Witch, and it's about bringing ritual into the workplace. So it's ritual, not religion, which is, a big taboo topic in the workplace. It's little things you can do to bring purpose and meaning to the drudgery of your everyday tasks.
Oh my
And,
God.
just how to connect more with your job and with your assignments so that you're fulfilled. This has nothing to do with the company making money. This is so that
This is
your
huge.
time there is enjoyable.
This is huge because think about how many people are sort of in jobs that they hate or they don't like or they don't get as much meaning. Can you
Yeah.
imagine just bringing that value there? But I really love what you talked about, the reality of getting stuck in life's routines without really kind of necessarily having always the community or the opportunity to really kind of connect more deeply with the value of the experience in that same way, and
Yeah.
just your what that urged your connection to what sounds from what you shared the beginning of protection rituals, right? Even through superstition or other rituals, and I know you share a lot of them in Instagram and
Mhm.
in your Facebook as well. And the need for that, the need as humans, we need that. We need those elements that are going to really help empower us, are going to bring an element of safety. And I really, really love that. So then you kind of found that again, coming more organically out of your own life experience. I really love that. Tell me a little bit about, I know that you've created this incredible membership.
Mhm.
The doors to your membership are opening up today. So really
Correct.
officially, tell me how from there you
Mhm.
found yourself, obviously you've got grown-up children now, you found yourself really leading to this place of now involving community through the membership and creating a much more intentional space around kind of utilizing ritual and tools that are going to enhance and bring value and transformation in our lives. So tell me a little bit about how from there,
Mhm.
taking care of her kid and bringing some ritual protection, moving into a lot more deeper level of support through a membership now. Tell me more how that evolution took place.
So that was a long process. Again, nothing that happened overnight. Um, it started basically, so I also read tarot. So I would have clients, and something that I have heard consistent. So I would have clients, and something that I have heard consistently since I started reading professionally, so maybe 7 or 8 years, is that they were interested in it, but they didn't really know where to go and find a place to like start and to learn. And it's a little bit different now because there are so many options online.
Sure.
Um, but there was that, and that everybody who got a reading was more or less confused and lost and searching for something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kind of disconnect. I don't know, a lot of them, a lot of people still practice religion, they still go to church, they go to temple, all of that, and this wasn't something to replace that part of it. They
Right.
just felt like there was something more.
Yeah.
And I just kind of leaned into that, like, okay, if we're all feeling lost, there has to be something more, and how do you find your way to that? And so many of those clients and my friends and even my family were missing the connection with their intuition.
Yeah.
Like, so they felt that pull, but they didn't really know where it was even coming from. And that's when you need to ground and center and tune in and
Yeah.
start back at the basics with your intuition and to build that forward. Consistently, since I started reading professionally, so maybe 7 or 8 years, is that they were interested in it, but they didn't really know where to go and find a place to like start and to learn. And it's a little bit different now because there are so many options online.
Sure.
Um, but there was that, and that everybody who got a reading was more or less confused and lost and searching for something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kind of disconnect. I don't know, a lot of them, a lot of people still practice religion, they still go to church, they go to temple, all of that, and this wasn't something to replace that part of it. They
Right.
just felt like there was something more.
Yeah.
And I just kind of leaned into that, like, okay, if we're all feeling lost, there has to be something more. And how do you find your way to that? And so many of those clients and my friends and even my family were missing the connection with their intuition. Like,
Yes.
so they felt that pull, but they didn't really know where it was even coming from. And that's when you need to ground and center and tune in and
Yeah.
start back at the basics with your intuition and to build that forward. And at the same time, I was noticing that I also had a small shop in a in an artist vendor market.
Right.
And just for fun, we would do things like, like every Friday we would write our intentions on a bay leaf and then I would burn them over the weekend and little things like that. And the group aspect of it brought so much energy to our place and to ourselves. And it just kind of lifted us all up, that whole, like, the collective energy.
Yeah.
So starting this membership program is just, it's a way to do both. It's a way for people to find their first steps on their spiritual path and to do it together with other like-minded people to build on that collective energy.
I love that. And I definitely, somebody who has been part of groups, I can say that I wouldn't have, as well as run a membership in the past, I don't think I would have managed to have grown the way I have without the support of just the fact that we can mirror each other so well as well. And it's almost like we are like activating each other all the time. And just the level of support that comes from being in a community of like-minded people who are growing into the spiritual path, especially outside the religious context, right? It's immense and it doesn't get talked about, especially for those who might be a little bit too much like caught up and maybe even trapped at times in sort of like the external world, in terms of the materialistic world, in terms of the working environments that we're in. And we get locked in very kind of specific type of conversations and mindsets. And I think that's where a community can be huge. Um, and also you talked about tarot, because obviously that's a really big thing. It's about
Mhm.
archetype. It's about, it really opens up the path for people to understand more through symbolism. Um, so how do you incorporate tarot with, because I see you in Facebook sharing a lot about ritual and a lot of daily rituals they can do for so many different things. And I love that. Things that I didn't even know existed. Tell me how tarot for you and those symbols and the archetypes have enhanced your experience in going deep in your spirituality.
Ooh. I I think that's how my whole concept of ritual started, was
Mm-hmm.
that daily routine of drawing a tarot card every morning to pick up on the energy for my day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that ritual in itself has gone through changes. All of it is always an evolving, growing process, with an ebb and flow of energy with that. So it used to be 3 cards a day. Now I do 1 card a day. Then I would do an oracle card, but it was that consistency of drawing a card every day and tapping into that energy. And tarot, I believe, helps you recognize, it doesn't tell you what you don't know. Tarot will always tell you what you already know subconsciously,
So it kind of
whether I'm
confirms
drawing
and
it or
affirms.
you're drawing it.
Yeah.
Again, it's all intuitive. So when you see the cards that you draw for the day, or you pick a card of the day, and now you're thinking, okay, well, where can that come into play in my life today? And
Mhm.
maybe you don't notice it. Maybe you don't notice it until 3 days from now, and you're like, oh, that's why that happened.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
always go back to the cards, because for me personally, the cards can connect me to my intuition like that. I don't have to
Yeah.
think about it.
It's definitely a really great tool, isn't it, to kind of get
Yeah.
in and create that bridge with a little bit more of the energy. And sometimes, like you said, it does confirm, but sometimes we hadn't made it conscious. So it's kind of like it confirms something that was maybe not formed quite within our sort of awareness.
Yeah.
That's what I've really loved about it. Um, and talking about community and talking about group support, I'd love to know from your personal experience. I mean, you've talked to us from your personal experience, but also I'd love to know what you feel from what you see, what you witness in the community and women, some of the sort of some key struggles or kind of like things that are holding women back to maybe connecting with intuition or deeper purpose. I know that's a big thing for you. in helping other women with. So what do you feel, if you were to say, name 1 to 3 things that you feel sort of like up there as priorities, as like blocks, misalignments or disconnections, what would you say in your experience or your understanding those to be at the moment?
Right now, I think women as a whole are just beginning to step into their authentic selves. And I think part of I guess number two for that is almost not knowing how to step into your authentic
Yeah,
self. Because again, I think as a whole, we are feeling like, okay, we're able to do stuff now. We know we can take care of our homes. We know we're allowed to work. There's still these limiting beliefs as to, like whether we can run companies or run countries or, do this or that. Um, and there's still a lot of stereotypes and bias against women in certain roles.
absolutely.
And sometimes women are women's biggest enemy. I
Yeah,
do
I
think
agree with that.
I think we either help each other up or we're pushing each other down. We haven't quite figured out how just to be friends and work together as
Yeah,
a whole.
yeah,
Um, so I think we're all feeling it. We need to step into our own power and our own selves, and we're just quite not sure how to do that.
yeah,
And universally, I think it's happening.
yeah, yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think it's going to take it'll probably take a few years.
Yeah,
Again, nothing's overnight. But I
yeah,
think we are stepping into it and we're realizing we can have it all because I'm online a lot on social media and stuff. And I see two things. I see the successful women living their wonderful, wonderful lives.
mhm.
And then I see everyone struggling. They can't get a job. They can't pay the bills. They're overwhelmed with their kids, like all kinds of stuff. And there doesn't seem to be anybody in the middle anymore.
And it's interesting you brought that up, actually. I agree. I'd love to know. So, from how do we go? And I mean, I know it can sound like a big question, but like from, say, the women who are struggling to pay the bills, da, 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 even with jobs they don't like, how
Mhm.
do those women, I guess, and that's an open conversation, I guess, and I'm not saying that we find the solution to it now, but I like opening up those spaces through things that are brought up. So for the women who are struggling making ends meet, even through things that they don't enjoy doing, how do we go from there to desiring doing so and earning money and wanting more from doing things that they do actually love, right? And
Yeah.
in a way, how do we help? And it's not even necessarily just a question, do you directly? It's like, I just wonder, how can we open up the space to create a
Hmm.
little bit more? I guess I work a lot with creating safety for women to make those leaps and to
Yeah.
create those shifts. So safety is one thing that comes up. How can we help each other create that safety, I guess, in allowing ourselves to experiment with these new possibilities, you know?
Yeah. It is. I mean, there's so many factors that can come into that.
Yeah.
I mean, if in general, if the world had safety nets set up so that there was no shame in it if you needed assistance to pay a bill or assistance to put food on the table, if we took away the stigma of you failed and that's why you need here in America, that's why you need food stamps or that's why you need government assistance or something. If that stuff was, if those kind of programs were just accepted and part of the norm and not a put down and not a stigma and not a failure on women's shoulders, because 9 times out of 10 it's probably the mom who's, I don't mean to say it like that,
No,
but
no,
nine
no,
times out of
don't.
10
Yeah.
it's probably the women who are more concerned about feeding their children, and that's coming out wrong. I don't mean more concerned, but
I know what you mean.
when they're home with the kids, they're the ones responsible for the meals.
And we are the primary caregivers because even biologically, the kids are depending on us for their sustenance. So I
Yeah.
think we never really kind of disconnect from being the provider in that way and really taking care of them. You know, as a single co-parenting mom, I totally resonate with that. I think you're right in that. I live in a country where there's a universal credit, so people get like a universal minimum. And even I have friends who are in well-paid jobs who are still getting some support for whatever reason as part of this universal credit. They top up their
Yep.
earnings. But I understand that that's not the, you know, we have free healthcare and all that, and that's not the norm in everywhere. And that's
It's
really
not.
sad. Um,
Yeah,
so
so they don't get the healthcare, so forget healthcare here. They don't get healthcare,
yeah,
not getting mental health care. They're
no,
not getting support from the community because the community is like, how come why are you struggling? How come you're not, everybody who loves to say, just smile. Well, it's not as easy as just smiling to get through tough
no,
times sometimes. So I think to create spaces, like you said, a safe space where women can open up, where they can
mm,
explore their own personal magic. I always go back to that because I think if they had a place where they could tune into their intuition and really start to trust themselves and believe
yeah,
in themselves again,
I
just
love that.
that little boost to their self-esteem can do
Yeah,
so much. No, it's not going to solve world problems, but collectively, I don't know. And for the rest of us, stop putting each other down and
yeah.
start
Oh my
lifting each
gosh.
other up.
100% on that. But also that's where, in a way, that creating intentionality around it, that we might not know the answers as to how, but how about we ask the universe, we ask source that actually we are being shown the ways. And that's what I love about places like the community you created, the Nebula,
Mhm.
because it is very much that intentional space and it does bring community together, but it also is quite affordable for people to be able to make that investment that maybe might not be able to have it as a priority in their expenses, but it's still
Exactly.
something that creates that intentionality for that sort of creation of safety and that deeper learning and that sort of connection to true self. I think that's really important, and having intentional sacred spaces as
Yes.
well for that growth actually. I would love to know about Nebula. Because obviously this is your baby, this is what you've given birth to, and it's been a while in the making in terms of
Yes.
everything that has been conjured up from years and decades of your experience and your desires and your own sort of play with magic and spirituality. So tell us a little bit about the space of Nebula and what people could expect, I guess, if they wanted to bring a little bit more of that safe, sacred space for growth,
Mhm.
for shifts, for changes, and for believing in themselves more. I'd love to know more about it.
I the Nebula started as a newsletter. It was a weekly ritual newsletter
Ah,
that people could sign up for, and you got a new ritual to try out every single week. And from there,
I love that.
people wanted to do it together. They're like, oh, can you
Yeah,
show me? And I'm like, well, now I'm doing workshops. So, so
yeah,
then I started to do a few workshops and it just kind of evolved from there. So not only to have that sacred space where you can explore whatever you wanted to explore as far as spirituality or the metaphysical, but also to learn.
yeah,
So I tried to combine the two of those. So if you are saying like, we'll go back to tarot, like, oh, I've always been interested in the cards, but I don't know what to do. Well, this is where you can come and step
to
into the
learn.
nebula, meet other people who also might have that interest. And, I can show you the tarot 101 workshop where you can learn how to do it. And then if you don't like that and you see something else, you're free to try something else. So it's kind of like really the stepping stone for all those who are like curious dabblers into the
Yeah,
metaphysical. So not
I
only
love
do you get
that.
a community where you can share and ask questions and learn, but I have sections set up where there are workshops and a resource library where you can access all kinds of things, everything from rituals to spell work.
Mhm.
That's your fancy. And all of
They sound
that.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a gratitude section, so you can do a 21-day gratitude challenge to
yeah,
take yourself. And I have a labyrinth set up so you can virtually walk a labyrinth and do some self-reflection. And I'm hoping to add some other things as we move on. I do group divination once a month for anybody who
Beautiful.
wants to pop in and get a card drawn for them. And we also do full and new moon circles
Oh, yeah.
where we set intentions and do a little meditation and do a little moon ritual together.
I love it. That sounds
Yeah.
really rich. And I love the fact that there's a really beautiful combination of from the workshops to then the resources they can get into. Then there's the live element where they bring their own intention and they work more intentionally with you as well live. I think
Yep.
that's a really beautiful thing. And of course, the community that they build with other people, which I think is really important. When I created my Oracle training, I build a community of oracles after the training finished so they can all sort of be together and connect, practice with each other and continue to grow. And I think
Yes.
that felt really lovely
Yes.
in terms of there's a legacy that's been created, but there's the skills keep on growing and people can continue to evolve from there. And it sounds really lovely. And how much is the membership at the moment?
Right now, the membership is $25 a month,
Okay.
or if you want to get an annual membership, it's $275. So you get 1 month free when you sign up for the annual. And for the next few weeks, I'm keeping it open for founding members, and I will honor that price for 2 years. So you can get locked in at that price for the next 2 years. And then
Wow.
I do expect after probably a couple of months that the membership rate will increase.
I would think so,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, it sounds like a really great value and a really beautiful place for people to connect. And you've talked about your book that you're creating. I know you've got an
Yeah.
oracle, a deck in the on the horizon as well, which is really exciting. How much? I'd love to know the role creativity plays in your life, Kelly, and how important is it, creativity for you, and how important do you think it is for our own growth and development as well?
I think creativity is a huge part of everyone's life, even if they don't think they're creative.
Mm.
I've run into people who are like, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And then I watch them like make this incredible recipe for dinner. And I'm like, well, there's your creativity right there. So sometimes I think creativity is hidden.
Yeah.
I am, I am definitely I'm an ideas person.
Yes.
I get some of it's my spirit guides, maybe some of it's my brain. I'm not really sure, but like just as I move throughout my day, I'm always like, oh, I could do that and I could do that. I don't have time in my life to do all the crazy things that pop into my head.
Mhm.
But it's what keeps it fresh.
Yes. And the
So
connection is there.
So I think it's important, no matter who you are, when you get those ideas, record them somewhere, even if they seem crazy and outlandish. Because if I had written down in my little notebook, 15 years ago, you're going to run a virtual membership program, like that never, I would have been like, you're crazy. There's no way I will ever do anything like that. I don't like to teach. I don't want to be around that many people. But you know what? I love it.
Isn't it interesting? I've had the same
So
thing. I've had the same thing. So what is it that made you feel different about it, do you think? Like when you saw in your mind, you thought that you couldn't imagine, but the reality of it ended up being something that felt really good to you. What is it when that happens, do you think?
I don't know. I never thought I would like teaching. I do not have a lot of patience. So you are such a patient soul because my crazy questions that I ask you all the time. But I don't have any patience. And so I never thought I would like teaching. And then I did a couple of workshops and I was like, oh, I do kind of like this. But I don't think I would like a classroom type. I kind of like the virtual workshops.
I think this is the thing. I think that maybe the idea of the traditional type of teaching didn't click, but I think
Yeah.
there's so many different ways to do it. And I actually, when I asked the question, but I also felt like this. I honestly feel when you click with the thing that you click about, or the subject matter, or the kind of area like the spirituality or the occult, or whatever it is for each
Yes.
person, when it clicks, the thing clicks, then it's almost like it becomes such a natural thing to want to tell people about it, to want to help other people with the thing that you fell in love with. But it is this thing about the moment you fall in love, it's like, it's very hard to walk away from it, to not want to. And
It
it's about
is.
teaching the thing that you love, that feels, that resonates, and that makes sense. Um, But it wouldn't be necessarily through the traditional means. And of course, the online space is amazing because it opens up so many doors.
It really does. And then people can do it when they want. You know, even if you're doing something live, you can record it and people can access it later. So it's really, I mean, it really is its own world in itself. But you're right. When you step into what you love and you have found your purpose
Yes,
and you have found what brings meaning to your life,
exactly.
that's when the alignment clicks. And once everything
Yes,
clicks into
that's
alignment,
it.
that's when
That's
you
it.
start manifesting all the other wonderful things in your life. But if you're
100%.
forcing yourself to do something that you dread or you don't like or like just brings you down over and over and over again, you're never, I believe that you are never going to manifest the life of your dreams when you're not aligned with what you're doing
Yeah, yeah.
on a
Or it's
day-to-day
having just,
basis. I mean, we all have tasks we don't like to do, but
of
you know,
course.
that's part of
Yeah,
life. But your true
100%.
like, years-long alignment, you need to be in alignment with what you love.
And you know, 100%. And just to say to you, I'm actually really not a patient person at all, but I'm extremely patient with the things I love, because for me, the problem solving that comes from the question people bring, or, oh, how do we deal with this? To me, that is so exciting to me. And you know what? I read a quote, which I really believe. It says that kind of problems are actually a very central process for our minds. Isn't it interesting? Where it becomes heavy is where, if, say, our life is full of problems, obviously, you know, or the kind of very turn into crisis points, then obviously we don't want to be in that. But there's a level of sort of problem solving that actually is really healthy for us when we're in alignment, when our basics are taken care of. And I think that they can be really useful as we navigate and realize the capacity we have to transcend, to transform, and to alchemize. And you talked about creativity, and I feel like you said, I think it's really true. It's not about being a painter or doing a creative activity. Even just turning your lead into gold in life, that's being a creative, right? Like
Exactly.
any small little thing that you have to turn into possibility
Yeah.
it makes you a creative person. I really, really love that. So creativity is an important thing for you. What do you feel you would like? This is getting a little bit philosophical now. What do you feel you would like to see if you were to name 1, 2, 3 things that you would like to see kind of anchoring as part of the new world that we're stepping into, right? This kind of like a more expansive consciousness, or, you know, a better world. So what's kind of, if you were to think, what's kind of some of the energies, qualities, values you'd like to see more of anchored in our collective consciousness?
Yeah, if I could
If you could
create
do your magic
our
wand,
own
right?
yeah, if I could take my magic and spread it around the world,
Yeah.
the first thing it all comes back to community. We have
Mhm.
to start taking care of one another.
Mhm.
Period. That goes from your own family and your children. And I'm not talking about, you know, people who were in abusive situations. That's a different situation. But we have to start taking care of our own, of our families, of our neighbors, of our community. And once we start caring about each other as a whole and stop focusing on what's making us different and start focusing on what's making us the same, things will start to get better. So we need to focus on community. And then
I love that.
I do think back to where I didn't realize I was doing magic the whole time, or, you know, like living in alignment the whole time. We have to go back to those latent abilities that we all possess, but we've all kind of forgotten over the centuries and thousands of years.
Preach.
Yes, back to our intuitive senses, back to our all those clairs, the clairaudience, the clairsentience, all of that will eventually start to come up again. And then we'll be able to live not only as an in-tune community, but as an in-tune planet and world. And then, now I'm getting crazy, then
Please,
maybe
let's amp
Then
it up.
maybe, yeah,
I'm
then maybe we'll
all
be able
in.
to explore other worlds, because I do think we cannot possibly be the only planet with life on it in this vast, vast universe. But I think life might be not what we're thinking it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if we open up those other senses, then we might be able to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
that's
actually,
going to take another million years.
I 100%, I love that. I love that you're making that connection. And actually that we are very lucky because we live at a time with all the spiritual technologies we have
Yes.
that we are able to create that connection and the communication that goes beyond. But I love how you started from such a beautiful basic 3D thing of let's care about one another because we all have each other and actually we live with one another. We need to make that work and we need to help each other. And then you went from this to let's kind of like open up to communicating with, others beyond us, right? So I really love that. I really love that. And I think it's a really powerful message. So there we are talking about community. You have the space nebula that's kind of opened up. Tell us a little bit more about people connecting with you just before we go, where they can find you online, the best places. I definitely recommend your Facebook and Instagram because you share a lot of ritual there
Okay.
and lots of very interesting tips as well. And of course, how to connect with you through Nebula as well.
Sure. You can find me through my website, which is thebohowitchery.com.
So good.
There's links to all my socials right there on the homepage, but I'm also the Boho Witchery on all the major socials. So Instagram, Facebook, Threads. I do have a Pinterest and I do have a LinkedIn, but
Yeah,
mainly Instagram, Facebook, and Threads is where I hang out most of the time.
sure.
Oh, and
Sure.
TikTok if you want to see my
Oh,
face.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. Great. So we're going to put all your links on the bottom of this, on the description
Okay.
box for those who might want to connect with you. And just to kind of also affirm, you've mentioned about locking the founding members for the next 2 years into a really beautiful price for coming on board into your lovely online space. We talked about the value of sharing in community and growing through community, what that can do for us and for our own connection to self, as well as connection to our intuition and our gifts too. And I look forward to this book coming out because I think it will help a lot of people too. It's been really lovely to connect with you, Kelly. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
No.
Thank you so much. I just want to finish with one last thing that I think you will
Sure.
resonate. How I like to finish these interviews at the end every single time is always ask my guests to share with us one beautiful tip or ritual, funnily enough, that you have incorporated in your life that really assists you and that you really love at the moment. So, for instance, for me, my abundance, my guides had told me a while back, my sort of prosperity ritual is taking a really beautiful bath. That's really enhancing for me. Anything as small or big as it is, it doesn't matter. Tell us one hack, one thing that you enjoy doing.
I love to light a candle. And it can be just as simple as any candle that you got at, Bath and Body Works or a local candle shop would be nice.
Yeah,
Get it from there, or it could be a candle that you've chosen with more intention. A specific color for something or a
yeah,
scent for something. But I usually have a candle going most days. Important to practice safety, never ever leave it unattended. I say that every time I bring up candles. But I love to use candles for everything.
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that.
if you're doing a quick little, if you don't have time for a regular candle burn, birthday candles are a spectacular substitute for things that need to be done quickly. So even if I can only light a birthday candle while I'm getting dressed in the morning, I will do that.
I love that. And I love having candles in the daytime. I feel
Yeah.
it helped me be more present as well. That's such a great tip. Thank you for sharing with us. And thank you for being here.
Thank you
Everybody,
so
if you
much.
want to connect with Kelly, please feel free to do so. It's been it's a real pleasure. And I'm very excited for the future of Nebula and all the possibilities that is holding for all the amazing women that are
Yes.
going to be coming into your space. So thanks a lot. And
And
thank
thank
you,
you. I
everyone.
appreciate it.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you everybody for watching yet another episode, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.